Hey, I'm MacKenzie. I'm an adoption consultant with CAC. Um, this month of January, I've been talking about Emmanuel, meaning God with us. And we just walked out this holiday season of 2021, and we were able to celebrate the birth of Jesus. And he was given the name Emmanuel, meaning God with us. And what I love about the way the Lord really brought himself to us and it was just through the most delicate way, right? Like through the newborn birth of a newborn baby, but that he also brought him to this earth, that he brought Jesus to earth as human form to do life in the same way of which we all experience it, from the same manner of our arriving to our departing, from life to death, through the trials, the tribulations, through the temptations and through the joys and the celebrations. And so, I've always heard that adoption, it's just not for the faint of heart. And truly, that's absolutely true. And really from any side of the triad, and that I really feel like it's just not the way that the Lord intended life to be, right? When he was creating the world, I don't think adoption was necessarily in his plan. But that through the brokenness, that is, what we're experiencing now as humans, that adoption was born. And so knowing that, we know that it truly can't be simple or easy, and as an adoptive parent myself, I felt the joys and the stings of adoption, that call that, hey, she picked you, like probably one of the most joyful moments of my entire life. But I've also heard the sting and felt those heart-stopping words. She chose to parent. Being excited and joyful for her to be able to do that, but also, grieving the loss and the idea of what we thought would be. So something I've encountered myself as I've walked with other hopeful adoptive parents and families through the adoption process is just really God's presence in it all. Him being Emmanuel, that he's with us, that he's gone before us into our future as he's preparing a way, but that he's present in our now as we're waiting, or as, through anything that we're experiencing in our now. But he's also alive in our past and the way that he's prepared us for this purpose in our life and for where we are in life. And so through the hard places of brokenness, I've seen, I've had the interesting experiences of seeing a mama decide to parent, that she would allow God to hold her face and extend his strength and allow her to pick herself up from the challenge of which she's found herself in and say, you know what, I need to try here. Like, that's Emmanuel, that's God with her, that he would give her that strength to stand up and say, you know what, I'm just going to do this. Like, I'm going to give everything I have to this. I've also seen it, in the cries and in the waiting of hopeful adoptive parents, as they're sitting there and they're disappointed as they've heard not yet after not yet after not yet, and to hear that from them and walk with them through that, just to get like the next phone call from them, a month later, to saying, she picked us, we got our yes. I feel like that's Emmanuel, that's God with them, that they would be able to experience those things and feel God's nearness and presence in the hardship of waiting, but also in the joys and the celebrations of getting their yes and being excited to bring a baby into their home. Something else that I feel like is really unique is that I've seen the mix of emotions, the ache, but also the joy of extended family, of a birth family, as they stare at the beautiful face of this baby that was brought into their world, knowing that they're not going to be necessarily in close proximity to help raise them, and that God meets them there in their hardship and their aching, but also gives them joy and knowing the family that potentially could be raising this child, and that he's Emmanuel with them. He's with them in their hardship, in their brokenness, and that he's the only one who can bring them joy in that situation. And then me, myself, I've felt those harrowing moments of grief, and been held by scripture, as I've walked through the grieving the idea that I would be holding a baby on Valentine's Day of 2017, and I wasn't. I was grieving the loss of what I thought would be. But then to experience the joy only a couple of months later of holding my son for the very first times in my arms, yeah, a joy that I just don't think that could ever be recreated. And that was Emmanuel being God with me, holding me up in the scripture and the love that he has for me in those hard moments where I felt like he wasn't even remotely close, to experiencing the joy and celebration with me of holding my son for the very first time. God is present with us. He's even through the hard and the beautiful pieces of adoption. I've had the privilege of witnessing his nearness and his peace, um, especially when it doesn't feel like it. And I think today we can be grateful that he is given the name Emmanuel, and that he has come and that he's with us.